Welcome, everybody, to episode 4 of the Photography Brothers. That is a podcast hosted by myself, Jared Poirier. I'm a videographer and photographer here in Toronto, and I'm joined by
Michael Costa. I also take photos.
well known to take photos. I've actually been taking more photos than usual, man. I was just saying that with doing the daily vlog, it's really given me a reason to get out and get some photos taken and really experiment and learn new stuff about the capabilities of my camera. There's always more to learn, man. Always more to learn.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's something where, I mean, we were, like you said, we were talking about that a little bit before we started shooting here. That's something I need to start doing is potentially using video as a platform for me to just begin experimenting again in photography as an excuse almost, right? So it's awesome, man. I love the content you've been putting out, and you're motivating me, man, to
Thanks,
go and
buddy.
do that.
Nice. So it's the first episode of 2021 and first Photography Brothers of a new year. How's your year going so far, boss?
Oh my God, it is a new year. It's okay, man. It's okay. There hasn't been enough time to ruin the year yet for me.
Definitely.
Or to make it.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, it's been okay so far. It's been okay. How about yourself?
nice. Mine's going pretty well. I've got some pretty big ambitions for this year. Some pretty big plans. I was down at the skating rink because I've been going skating pretty often. There's like a hockey rink near my house that I go to, and the people down there, I was like asking them the same question, like, yeah, you guys think it's gonna be a good year? How's your year going? And they were like, we don't want to jinx it. Like,
We're not talking about last year.
Yeah, it's an okay year, you know, because everybody in 2020 was like, this is gonna be my year, and yeah, we all know how that went.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a good one and filled with at least many excellent podcasts. I can guarantee that. Many excellent episodes of Photography Brothers coming to you guys in 2021, probably bi-weekly, maybe weekly. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We're not doing daily vlogs together, Jerry.
We're doing daily podcasts. I'm going to do daily vlogs, daily podcasts, and I'm going to make a feature film every day.
Oh my God.
That's a little too much. Okay, anyways, yeah, so we've got some excellent podcasts coming for you guys, and today's show is no exception. We've got a great topic, I hope, that I thought of in the park this morning when you were like, we should shoot an episode today. And I believe you've got a news story for us as well.
I do.
So, Michael, do you want to do the topic first, or do you want to do the news story first?
Ooh, let's do topic first.
All right, let's get into the topic. So this is something that I've kind of been thinking about a lot, just kind of bubbling under the surface. And I'm glad to really put out a real podcast and really try to digest how I'm feeling about all of this stuff. So today's topic is, will cell phones replace cameras?
Yeah, I love this topic, man.
Thanks,
I
man.
love this topic.
I hope all of our listeners love this topic as well. I think there's a lot to get into here. So, what are kind of your initial thoughts that come? Initial feelings that come up when someone says, "Hey, man, I think that the way things are going, brother, there ain't gonna be no cameras anymore, man. It's just gonna be all about cell phones. It's gonna be about smartphones. The era of the smartphone."
I think that when I have that conversation with Hulk Hogan, I will. I'd agree with him. Like I've brought this up quite a few times now on the channel. It's so hard to argue with it. I feel like the one argument that DSLR huggers are kind of holding on to is just like, hey, depth of field, and a couple of other things here and there, but ultimately what's going to matter is your video, your photo quality, and then the additional aspect of that feeds is familiarity. And so with the mobile device, as they get more powerful, as they're able to, you have megapixels going up if that matters to you. You have the resolution in your video quality, and even some in-body stabilization we're starting to see with iPhones and some other devices. It's really hard to be on the other side of that argument now, looking in, saying, hey, there's no way. But realistically, I look at this as something that could really hurt the crop sensor market specifically.
Okay, because it's kind of replacing like anything entry level you'll just do on your phone type of thing, right?
Well, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I think that is a fairly good argument that it's in a way kind of inevitable. And I think like the point that you brought up about familiarity is definitely a good one. Like people already know how to use one device and they already know how to use one OS. And do they want to learn like a whole new system, like a whole new device and a whole new operating system, just to do something that they can pretty well do on their phone anyway? I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, kind of, I kind of viewed it more in like a convenience versus quality type of thing. Where with like a real camera, like something like I have like a DSLR, or something like you have like a mirrorless camera, you are going to get higher quality. Like, let's just be honest, you're still dealing with like twice the megapixels, dynamic range that you can get using a proper camera, the ability to switch out lenses and get a whole bunch of different looks. I mean, these are things, like you were saying, the depth of field, like having an actually blurred out background. These are things that right now you can definitely achieve better with, like, let's say, a pro camera. I guess the question is really like, is it worth the inconvenience of that on the other side, right? So kind of the quality versus the convenience of just having your phone. And I'll give you a perfect example. Since I started doing this daily vlog, probably 70-80% of it is just shot on my phone. Why? I don't want to carry this camera around all the time. Yeah. Like, it shoots better. Definitely it's better. The video quality is for sure better. Even if I shoot in 4K on my on my cell phone, it doesn't look as good as 1080p on my camera, just because of that sensor and the lens and everything that you're dealing with. But yeah, there's kind of so many advantages, I guess, as cell phones catch up, or smartphones, I guess, rather, catch up to the capabilities of a camera. And that's when, I guess, camera manufacturers need to get a bit worried.
Yeah. And, to feed off of that point around convenience, I think the part that feeds into that is the financial side. And that's kind of the reason that I tend to bring up the crop sensors a lot, for a couple of reasons, but one of those being within that price range of $1,000, what are you getting back for it? So the other thing to consider here is, you talk about Canon. I know you're a Canon lover. At the end of the day, Canon, for the most part, does not backfill a lot of the new tech and appealing features that they fuel into their full frame cameras, and it doesn't necessarily always trickle its way down into the crops until later on. Yeah. So ultimately what you have to look at is like, okay, so for $1,000, I'm an intro level photographer or videographer. Should I spend $1,000 on a thing that does one thing? You could argue two things, photo, video. Or do I spend that $1,000 on the top line iPhone, get crazy functionality, your in-body stabilization, the video quality is going to look fantastic. Sure, you have not true depth of field, it's artificial. It looks pretty darn good. It's pretty darn
better.
Good.
It's getting better.
Yeah. I think as an intro level person for this field, I think it's really, really appealing. I think the only thing you'd have to battle is if you start to do gigs, there's a level of perception that you'd have to battle.
Yes. But, absolutely. That's one that I was for sure going to bring up, because like with my professional gigs, when I show up and I have like my camera, and especially if I have it on like a gimbal or something, just like the perception of that is like, whoa, like this guy is like above. Whereas if I showed up with like one of those, little phone gimbals and my phone, like, oh, I'm here to do your shoot, people are gonna laugh at you, right? Or they're not going to be wanting to put a lot of budget behind that, because their perception of it might be like, oh, this is something that my nephew has.
Yeah. Seriously.
Certainly, certainly. So yeah, I think that in a lot of ways, that overlap is or that gap is starting to close, right? As cell phones get closer and closer to the quality of a camera, I think you're going to see more and more people making that calculation and saying, oh well, do I really need these extra megapixels? Like, do I, really care that my photos are like shot in raw and I can have all of this like control and ability to do a lot of post work. I guess control is another big thing that we didn't really talk about, right? We talked about like convenience, we talked about familiarity. I think control is another big part that the real pros will stick with professional cameras for a long time, just because like they're familiar with, like, if they shoot flat or they shoot in raw, then they can, pick the color profiles later. They can do a lot of post work and have like full control. I think that is going to be part of it. What do you think about that?
I think it's really interesting the way you just flipped that, because basically you just got my point. You said, yeah, familiarity is crucial, and it exists on both sides. The people that are familiar with their iPhones, but also the people that are familiar with their cameras, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? I mean, like, if you have I did this fairly recently as well. I have a full frame Sony mirrorless camera, and I wanted to incorporate a secondary camera. So I thought, hey, you know what? Let's get something Sony, something that is familiar to me, that writes the same way, that has similar features and functionality. The software, everything is familiar to me. I'd rather have that, plug everything in, and go. But that's me at the point that I'm at in my career in the equipment setup that I currently have, because that obviously has to influence your decision, right? So I think,
But there's just I think there's way more people who are familiar with like the iOS on iPhone, right? Than the other 100%. Way around. So that's 100%. Why that's why I kind of agree. I think I'm kind of agreeing with you, like the point that you brought up, like, yeah, cell phones are kind of replacing cameras, and I think that I'm just kind of like sad about it, and I'm trying to like talk kind of play devil's advocate and talk up the advantages of a real camera. But there are some. I mean, there's certain, like, there's reasons why cell phones haven't caught up. There's certain physical reasons. You have a big sensor and a big lens. That's a lot of light that you're taking in. So you're never going to replicate that with like a tiny little lens and a tiny sensor on a cell phone, right? Or on a smartphone. I keep saying cell phone. I should be saying smartphone. But you guys know
it's okay. It's okay, yeah.
First episode back. It's the first episode.
Get it together, Jared.
Yeah.
I had a really good point on what you just mentioned.
Oh, please go on.
I did. Well, I would.
Yeah? You forgot it?
I forgot it.
No. Well, then I guess I'll keep talking.
Pressure's on you.
I think where I do think that smartphones have the advantage is computational photography.
Right.
So if you don't know, the way that your smartphone is achieving things like bokeh, like the blurred out background, like the HDR, like motion blur, right? This is all done with stacking. So your smartphone doesn't just take one photo when you take a photo. It's taking a whole bunch of photos, let's say 10 photos, and then stacking them. So it's very similar to like HDR photography, and that's how your smartphone is able to achieve all of that. So basically, instead of having one image in low light that looks like crap, if you take like 10 low light images and then stack them all on top of each other, and an algorithm comes in and like picks out the best parts and stacks that all together into one image. That's how you're getting those good low light photos. I guess it's called like night mode on the Google Pixel. That's basically how that's being done, and it does the exact same thing for like the shallow depth of field effect. It's just taking a whole bunch of photos. Some of them are blurry and some of them are focused, and then there's like an algorithm that's like tracing out the subject and blurring out the background. So it's actually kind of simple when you view it like that. And that's what's allowing phones to sort of fake, right? Like what can be achieved with a real camera, a real sensor, really doing a long exposure and things like that, right? It's kind of we're able to now fake that on a phone, and that sort of makes up for some of the physical limitations. So again, that's where phones I think have the advantage right now.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, to your point, that is as simple as it is, but how quickly it does that is pretty impressive,
Yeah,
right? And we're
certainly.
fairly early on, right? We're talking, I don't know what, 3, 4 max generations of iPhones alone. I don't. I'm a little unfamiliar on the rest of the market on that, but that kind of technology is fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
And just speaking to the point that I did remember earlier on, which bakes into this, I think, fairly well, is just around you talked to physically, it's impossible to get a sensor, these sensors, these components, these things that fill this body of a camera into an iPhone. But what I will say, again, looking at the crop sensor side, look at the size of some of these. Look at an A6300. It's maybe an inch thicker than your smartphone. It's got 4K capability. You're still getting some depth of field. It's a crop. It's not a full frame, so it's not as good, but it's still real.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I will say is that although I think it's possible to get that functionality, whether it's through a little help from some of the technology that you were just referring to, by artificially doing it or going through a separate, different process, I think it's still really far away. And so I think the crop sensor side within the next 4 to 5 years might have to start coming up with some answers as far as full frame and its functionality and what it can do right now. I think they're safe. That's why I never tend to bring up the full frame, because there is no comparing the quality of that, and I don't think that you'll be able to for a while. Whereas the crop sensor side, I think they should be worried, and they need to start making some changes.
There's a reason why when you see those iPhone ads, they're always just like a nice picture from your iPhone, and it's not like iPhone picture next to SLR. Like you'll never see it, right? Because like they know that you can get a good photo on an iPhone, and you do have a 12 megapixel camera on there. But yeah, compared to it's not going to look as good as a 26 megapixel camera. It's just not.
It's not. No.
So that's a lot of it. I did have some examples of historical attempts to bring these things together to kind of make a phone that is more like a camera, or a camera that is more like a phone, because that was always something that I thought was kind of appealing, like from the perspective of a like a social media creator, content creator, an influencer, whatever you want to call yourself, being able to just take a photo on your camera, have that be like a super amazing looking photo, and then taking all the advantages of using like a real full frame camera, let's say, and then having like an Android OS or whatever rate in the camera itself that you could then go and post on Instagram or post on Facebook or whatever. I mean, that's kind of the holy grail. I can't imagine anybody who wouldn't want that. Like the process that I have right now, where I have to take the photo and then I put it into Lightroom and then I edit it and then I take my SD card and yada yada. I mean, I'm pretty used to it now, but let's be honest, it's a pain in the ass, right? So yeah, the ability to just simply shoot on your camera and have your camera kind of also be a smartphone, I think is very attractive. From what I can tell, the technology is not there yet. So the company who's really tried this the most in the past, and you guys out there might have heard of some of these. If you're one of those weird early adopter people, maybe you bought one of these things. I don't know. But for a long time, Samsung was trying to push kind of like phone camera hybrids. The Samsung NX was kind of a line of cameras that ran on Android with like a huge Android display, basically like a smartphone in the back of it that you could like take photos and post right on Instagram, like I was saying. And also the Galaxy camera, Samsung Galaxy camera, which none of these things really caught on. And in 2017 is when Samsung actually announced that they were killing their whole product line of these kind of hybrid camera cell phone things. They did say kind of ominously, though, that they're killing that to launch another whole product category related to cameras. So we'll see what that means. I guess maybe in the next few years, we're going to find out what they are talking about there. But I'm going to guess that you never shot any photos on a Samsung NX. Never got your hands on one of those.
No, definitely not. But I'm still waiting. Samsung, if you want to send me an old one.
I would do a video. I would definitely do a video. That'd be a vlog, right? Like get the NX and shoot some photos on that and see how it stacks up. Another thing that I'd like to get my hands on. So we're gonna go into a more modern try. Samsung is kind of giving up here, throwing in the towel. But we have another company stepping up to the plate here in China. Oh man, forgive me. I tried to look up how to pronounce this. Young Neo.
That sounds right.
Sure, it sounds fine. The YN450M. So this is kind of along the same lines of what Samsung was trying. You've got a camera with a micro four thirds sensor, and it runs Android. So again, being able to just take a photo, take a video, edit it right on one device and upload it right on one device. That's what they're trying to do here with Young Neo, with the YN450M. Very, very, just rolls off the tongue, right? Such a catchy name. Unfortunately, I don't think that, Michael, we will be able to do a vlog with this camera because it's only available in China.
That's sad.
That's sad, isn't it? But I have a bunch more information on it if you want to get into it.
Sure.
Yeah, so let's get into some of the specs on this device. So we're actually dealing with a micro four thirds sensor and mount, as I mentioned before. So 16 megapixels on that bad boy. And the only way that we can really, I think, fully appreciate these specs is by kind of comparing it to other kind of cameras at first, maybe to see how it stacks up as a camera. And then comparing it to phones a little bit later on when we get into some of the phone stuff. So a 16 megapixel micro four thirds. I mean, that's pretty weak. Honestly, it's not fantastic. It does shoot in 4K, but only at 30 frames per second. My Google Pixel shoots 4K 60, right? Like, so not great. I can't actually shoot 4K on my 6D, but I can shoot in 60 frames per second. So at least I can do slow motion. When we get into some of the other specs here, other things that you might be concerned about as a photographer is definitely shooting in the RAW format. This smartphone does support the RAW format, and you've got 32 gigabytes of storage, which is okay, I guess. Quite a few photos, and a SD, I guess, like a micro SD card slot on there, so that you can store your photos, store quite a few photos. So yeah, I mean, not terrible. Kind of, I think if they were able to bump that up to 4K 60 frames per second, that would help a lot. And at 16 megapixels, I mean, when you're looking at the iPhone 12, which has a 12 megapixel camera. Actually, it has like four of them, I guess, three or four. So I don't know. Is this thing really stacking up? Is this something that you're rushing up to buy to get those few extra megapixels? I'm not sure, right?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about how. So we're gonna say on the category of camera, probably a bit of a failure, right?
For sure.
And yeah, and from the articles and stuff that I read and the YouTube videos that I watched really quickly right before we record this, that seems to be the experience of some people who are able to get their hands on this thing. Is yeah, it's just not really stacking up as a camera. As a phone, it's 4G. It doesn't have 5G capabilities. That seems like a huge oversight to me. It's pretty much obsolete the second that it hits the market. Maybe not in China, but here for sure. You're dealing with 3 gigabytes of RAM, which again is pretty weak.
Oh boy.
Yeah, right? That's weak. The iPhone 12 has double that, and Pixel has a little bit more, 8 gigabytes of RAM. So three, I mean, that's a pretty slow. It's a pretty slow phone, and in the reviews that I was reading, it was saying that like it's not very responsive. It does have an 8-core processor, which I guess helps. But having so little RAM is definitely going to contribute to a bit of a slow performance. I did find out in doing this research, though, that even this piece of crap from China has a better processor than the 6-core processor in the iPhone 12 Max. So we can see where iPhone is putting their technology, putting their hardware into all of those cameras, because even the selfie camera on the iPhone 12 is 12 megapixels. Just so you know, if you haven't fallen asleep already, this thing isn't really great as a camera or as a smartphone. That's my take. What do you think, buddy?
I think that so Samsung and then the Neo, we're just gonna call it the Neo. I think is close
young.
enough.
Just throw a young on that, like
Young Neo.
Keanu Reeves, but a baby, young Neo.
Yeah, exactly. Young Neo, brilliant, good call there. I think they both looked at it wrong. You know, like I think Samsung was too early, and I think that young Neo, I think they put money in the wrong places. I think for starters, I was a little unfamiliar with this space. I had no idea that this was something that Samsung had tried.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I mean, the young Neo product isn't even in North America, so that's another thing there to touch on, which is your marketing has been garbage. Basically, if you're Samsung, you need to put this out. You need to put marketing dollars in front of it. Again, not at the right time, but if they came out to market now, and let's say they teamed up with Adobe, they teamed up with, and you say, hey, this has, even if it's a limited version, Photoshop Express, whatever, you can take photos, edit on a piece of software that's familiar to you. Familiarity is definitely the topic, the running theme here. And, upload it to the cloud, continue your progress on your computer, right? Like there are ways that they could have done this. Having 3 gigs RAM is garbage. So that doesn't do much for you if you also want to be able to edit on this. Now I know that the young Neo also has like a SIM card slot, and like it's not so much about it being a phone. It's about it being as convenient as a phone. I think that's where I think they missed out on a little bit, because it still needs to be, and at least in the way that they've built this thing, it needs to be a camera first and have that phone functionality second. But to your point, having the ability to upgrade to your TikTok, your Facebook, your YouTube, your whatever that is, also natively from the phone or from the device would be absolutely incredible. I think that there's an opportunity here. I think right now is a really good sweet spot where you have really well fleshed out Adobe products that just natively live on the app stores already. That's awesome. They were still trying to figure that out a little bit. They had very limited, Adobe at least. I'm saying Adobe, I'm referencing Adobe because honestly, Adobe's primarily the one that everyone's using. If you're using something else, if you're using Pixelmator, get out of here. Okay, like what are you doing?
Unfollow,
unfollow, unsubscribe.
No, please don't. Please don't. Please don't.
No, not
please.
from Jared. No. double down. Get a friend to sub.
Yeah, and to Photography Brothers too on Spotify. We need the numbers, guys.
Hey, that's a good plug right there, because we are on Spotify now, right?
We're on Spotify, baby.
So go follow us there. Check that out. Share that around. But yeah, man, that's kind of like my short and sweet look on that, is if you can kind of take advantage of the place where we are right now with mobile software and make a really good camera. What if you make something that has the functionality of an A6400 or something along those lines, where you have that 4K, like you mentioned, 4K 60, you have really good, at least base crop sensor functionality, and that's what you make crop sensors going forward. I think Sony's in a great position to do this. They have mobile experience, right, with their Xperia line. Obviously, they make cameras, the best cameras. I think they're in a great position to do something like that, but that's just my take.
Yeah, I think ultimately, like, now that I'm really sitting here and now that we're really hashing it out, I don't think that I'm really afraid of the advances that are being made to make cell phone photos and videos better, because at the end of the day, if we like are able to smash what's good about a phone and what's good about a camera together, and create like the best possible thing. Like, I'm just thinking, what if you take the capabilities of your camera, again, like those physical things, having a big old sensor, and then use computational photography on top of that. Like, then you're even boosting like your HDR to the next level, and that kind of stuff is incredibly appealing to me. But yeah, just the ease of use and the familiarity and stuff like that is definitely going to be huge. And the day that I don't ever have to take out an SD card and edit on an external device, just to put out some content, that'll be a great day.
Yeah, for sure. I did like that there was onboard storage, but I do think that would need to be higher. But that is cool though. Yeah.
It's good that someone's trying, right? Like, you know, we're not here to shit on young Neo either. So
no,
like, it's good. It's good. You know, Samsung kind of gave up, and at least these guys are still trying. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And apparently, like I said, Samsung is gonna drop a whole. They basically said in that release that they're gonna drop a whole another category of camera products. So I'm excited to see what goes on here in the future.
Same.
Should we get into the news?
Let's do it. All right. Something that I found very interesting, and this is something that, interestingly enough, ties back to what we were talking about in the beginning of the podcast, which was, obviously, we're talking about some of the changes you made on your channel. You're starting to do some daily vlogs, and you were talking to me a little bit prior to recording about how it's kind of forced you to try new things and experiment a bit more with photography and learn a bit more too, which is really interesting. And I think there's something to be said about YouTube and how it's been able to assist photographers. But in this way, I want to talk about financially. Cool. So there was an article that came out from F-Stoppers, mainly highlighted a video, which I just watched the video, and we're talking about a wedding photographer. He was making upwards of $100,000 a year. He is the primary source of income in the home, and as you can imagine, as an event photographer, as a wedding photographer. Thank you for drawing the graph. That's pretty much, that's pretty much how it went. I mean, his business was cut down to about a quarter of what he was able to do, right? And so
I'm making a joke about it, but that honestly sucks.
No, I know, and it's I think it's okay. He's been able to really turn things around, and that's kind of why I wanted to highlight this.
Okay, don't feel bad making fun of him then.
No, don't. So I mean, this guy, for one, I really recommend watching the video, and I'll make sure to send that over to Jared so he can include that in the description, because there is some really good information here on how you can take similar steps, and even just understanding a bit more on how that money comes to be and the different places they come from. So, he started a channel casually uploading in 2015, very casual. 2020 comes along. He's got a lot more time. He says, hey, I'm a lot more wise. I've learned a lot. I'm going to create content on a regular content schedule. And he took off. And so now we're here, end of the year, and he's basically discussing basically what the revenue looks like, almost like in a versus viewpoint, like versus just shooting my weddings versus shooting, just been shooting my videos and whatever.
Holy cow, man. This is super interesting.
It's really interesting. So I thought, for one, let's look at the numbers because they're really impressive. And it's not like if you follow the tips in his videos, you're going to be making this money, but it was a really informative video. And he basically, so there's ad revenue, right? Of course, you get to a certain point, you have views and you have enough subscribers, which I believe 1,000 is the quota, and then you have to have at least 4,000 views. Watching hours. Watching hours.
Yeah.
So
we're talking YouTube. Just to be clear, we're talking about YouTube partnership program here. Yeah.
Exactly, and that is exclusively, and so that is 20,000 that he made on ads
in a year.
In the year.
Wow.
Which is pretty high for ads, from what I understand, the current state of YouTube. Then obviously Amazon affiliation.
With how many subscribers? Do you have that number?
Ooh, you really asking the questions I should have the answers to.
Really asking the easy questions.
But here's the beautiful thing, Jared. As you're editing, you'll be able to put the number right here. Right here.
There. Yes, indeed. Wow, with that number?
With that number.
Wow.
Big or large. So Amazon affiliation, just for anyone who doesn't necessarily understand what that is, you might have heard or at least witnessed that on some of the YouTube channels that you follow, when they're talking to a product, they mention it, they'll often include these Amazon links in their description. And that is because the moment you click on that link, you don't even have to purchase that item. Anywhere you go after that point, there's a tracking code. You purchase stuff, you're getting a commission almost. It's not like, when you sell a house and you get like a big percentage of it, but it's small and it's accumulative. And if you have an audience, it can be significant. So this man here earned $90,000 on Amazon affiliation.
Oh man, I tried to do affiliates before and they got rid of my account because I wasn't sending enough traffic. This is making me feel bad. I don't know if we should do this.
We're in the same boat, man. We're in the same boat. Okay, we'll cry it out after. And then lastly, the other thing was just around merch, which he also tied together with presets. So obviously, your favorite. Yeah, right. Your favorite, YouTubers, odds are they're selling presets. You're familiar with that concept. Maybe they have merch. Fro Knows Photos has, a bunch of the funny Fro images on shirts, and he sells those. So merch and presets, he made 40,000. So obviously that's going to depend.
Presets, just in case people don't know what you're talking about.
Presets, so if you aren't familiar with that, then it's essentially, if you like the way that a lot of the people you take photos edit their photos, what they've started to do is create a preset list, which is essentially a list of different, almost like filters that you can apply when you're inside of Lightroom. I think it's pretty much just Lightroom. Yeah. And then from there, you can make your tweaks, of course, because you're within that platform. It just highlights whatever, but you have that core vibe, I guess, that core edit style. And so they'll do that and they'll charge a little bit, maybe $15-$20. Some people, depending on their status, like to really overcharge on those.
Videographers do the same with LUTs and Premiere.
Yeah. So I thought that was super, super interesting. It's a story of someone who really was on the worst end of it from a photography standpoint in regards to what he is shooting, what his subject is. Imagine how defeated, how sad, how upset, how scary it must have been.
Mm-hmm.
And then to flip it around and basically earn, you earn more, this is before taxes, so probably got destroyed on taxes. But with that being said, to end a year like that is really, really inspiring and motivating. And there were two reasons I wanted to bring up this topic. One was you might be one of those people, and I guess my point here was just to bring up a really positive situation where someone started in a really, really bad situation. You might be familiar with it. You might be able to relate to it. Maybe you're in events, and he was able to turn it around. There are some really good tips in here that could really help you out into maybe just dipping your toe in YouTube, and that can have so many positive effects for you. Of course, you can create a separate revenue stream from here if you're successful enough at it. Like Jared mentioned earlier on, it gives you the ability, while you're not necessarily in practice, because the gigs aren't there, to continue to be in practice and to continue to take and learn.
Continue to grow. Yeah,
exactly. And so I really wanted to bring this up because I think it's a really important resource for people from a motivation and from just like in general, a learning perspective as well.
Nice. Yeah, it's an awesome story. I'm definitely going to link that article and video and whatnot down in the description, so you guys can check that out. Yeah, great to have a victory story here, where things kind of got their darkest and someone was able to pull themselves out of it. I always love to hear that, and it definitely, I think, when you get to a point in business where things aren't really working out, I think a lot of people would kind of just maybe feel a little bit defeated and maybe want to give up. And when you hear stories like this, it really encourages you, and you got to view it as an opportunity, right? Like this revenue stream of weddings and whatnot went away. And I think with like the numbers that you gave there, he was actually able to make more money by making content. I would guess he's also enjoying life a lot more, because shooting weddings is stressful.
That should be in a separate episode.
So yeah, just like the amount of, I wonder just how it stacks up in terms of like the amount of actual work, and then the fact that like he's just when you're making content, you're just like continually building up your own empire, building up your own revenue stream, right? Rather than like working B2B, where you're essentially like taking your skills and using them to build up somebody else's, which is great. You do make money. Like I've made my living doing that. But yeah, if you could make it like right off of the content itself, then that is a whole nother thing. So I don't know. Interesting.
Well, another part to consider here as well is like, hey, he was able to utilize that time very effectively. And now he's at a point, again, of course, we talked about the financial success he had last year. What about moving forward? What about as we begin to move towards a place that's a bit more quote unquote, normal? Well, yeah, so of course he's not going to have that time to produce content at that same level, assuming that his wedding photography business come back at even 75% of what it used to be. But now you're at a place, you did the hard part, you grinded it out, and you got people there watching and committing to you. Look at the merch sales, right? Like merch sales, that tells me a lot about how invested is financially and emotionally invested his audience is. And so you did the hard part. Now maintenance, guess what? What does half of everyone do? They hire editors. You know what I mean? You're at a point now where you can continue to do that and also get back to that familiar place of taking your photos, and you're in a way better place than you used to be. And I think that there's something to be learned just around
for sure
sitting in that place versus
getting the channel in place, getting the audience, like getting everything set up, your banner, your website, all of your social media links, having all of that. It's true. That's a lot of the hard work. I've also noticed since I've been doing like more steady content that like the workflow gets a lot more precise and a lot simpler and a lot faster. Honestly, like I've gotten, even in doing this in like the last 5 days, I've gotten faster at editing. I'm getting better at using my shortcuts. And just really precise in terms of like, what is the process of this? Okay, I come up with the idea, I shoot it, I import footage from my camera, I import footage from my phone, I combine it all in Premiere, I edit the vlog, I publish it, I delete all that footage, and then I go to bed. And it's like, just having that process so streamlined, where there's like no question about like, what's the next thing that I need to do? Yeah, it definitely gets easier once you start.
Yeah, I love that you talked to that, because I think you really expanded on what we were saying in like being able to grow through it, from a technical standpoint, an efficiency standpoint, but also the other point here is like the marketing. Man, the amount of content that's just purely about that one thing that you shoot around and that your business is based around, that you spent a year, fueling content around. Guess what? In 2021, hopefully, ideally, fingers crossed, we get to that place. 2022 at least. Now, when people are searching it up, Jared, you tell me to get better at SEO all the time. Your SEO is fantastic, right? You're showing up
getting better.
On no, not you specifically. I meant the person in that position, but your SEO is pretty good too.
I have a unique name. You're named Michael. You're already screwed out of the gate.
Hey man, I'm MM Costa Photography. Okay, MM Costa Photography. But yeah, I think if there's one message to take out of this, I think it's one part of that is how can you use that time, and how and can it better you? Maybe not immediately. For him, it was almost immediately, but even down the line when we talk about marketing and brand awareness and stuff like that, I think just make it. I think if you feel comfortable enough to speak to a camera, you probably should create a YouTube channel and just start dabble.
Yeah, I think so.
Put your foot in the water, and if you're worried about, hey, I saw Jared, not you, Jared from Fro Knows Photo. If you look at, you Jared as well. You look at me. You look at a lot of the creatives locally and internationally, the large names, and you think, hey, but they got such a personality for it. I don't feel like I have that personality for it. You have it because there are a lot of other people that are going to think similarly to you. That's why all of these people succeeded, because there was someone who wasn't necessarily like them, and then and then everyone gravitated towards that. So don't be so concerned about being not really like the other people that exist in that market or that channel or that platform. Be more concerned about, hey, that you have something unique to bring. And so coming into it with just full on authenticity could really, really do you really good.
You're telling the audience out there that they need to create a YouTube channel because they're a special and unique little snowflake?
Exactly.
Exactly. That is the message of the show today, guys. You are a unique snowflake. And
yes.
No, but honestly, I mean, I'm making fun of it, but it's definitely true. The whole like personal brand thing. There's whatever your personality is, like you were saying, there's people out there who are like you, and despite what you might think, like your day-to-day life is probably like pretty interesting to somebody, right? So yeah, even if it's not that interesting to you, like I would love to watch a vlog by like an Uber driver or whatever, right? And just like see what their life is like.
That'd be awesome. I think that's a good thing for the comments down below. If you got into YouTube in 2020, if you're thinking about getting into it in 2021, regardless of when you watch this video live or a few months from now, drop a link in the comments below, and me and Jared will give it a look. We'll leave a comment. We'll give you some feedback. If you don't mind, Jared, I'm gonna signing you up for
certainly, it. Certainly, yeah, guys. If you're content creators as well, if you're listening to this, I probably already know you, and I probably already know that you make content. But if I don't, we would love to give you guys some feedback. It's one of my favorite things to do, and something that I basically do all the time for any of my friends that want to get into creating any type of content, be it podcasts, be it YouTube, be it whatever. I'm definitely here to offer some advice and some support. Not that I'm a perfect genius, but I have made a lot of content, and I have gotten some work and made some money doing it, and so has Michael. So yeah, we'd love to help you guys out with that.
Beautiful.
So I guess that's the show. You want to get out of here?
Yeah, let's go, man. I gotta go grab pick a food. I'm gonna grab a baguette, slap some butter in there.
This guy's gonna have a baguette. I've got a meeting and a vlog to shoot. So we're gonna get out of here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Photography Brothers, whether you're watching it here on YouTube or listening on Spotify. You know that we appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you back here on the next episode of Photography Brothers.
Thank you so much for watching.